In my husband's family, you inherit from your grandparents. My husband's father got it into his head that our son was the product of my having an affair. He said that he wouldn't set aside money for him unless we got a paternity test. My husband told his father to screw himself, and we cut him off. It's been a couple of years and he wants us back into our lives, but he still wanted a paternity test. My husband and I talked about it, and we agreed under the condition that when it turned out that my husband was the father, the money for our son would be in an irrevocable trust for his future, even though his grandfather hadn't passed away. He agreed and we did a test, like 23andMe, but with the more reputable and private brand. It just so happens that my son is indeed my husband's child, but he's not related to a bunch of his paternal relatives. My husband's mom is a saint and she divorced her idiot ex a long time ago. He immediately started dumping on her for cheating since, obviously, the test showed that my husband was illegitimate. 2 tests later, the results are back and my father-in-law is definitely my husband's father. My father-in-law, however, is not the offspring of the father he always thought was his dad. We had a legally binding contract, so my son has his inheritance waiting for him when he turns 25. We saw my father-in-law over the holidays, and he was complaining about how he had to liquefy some of his assets to set up the trust fund. I said that if he'd just accepted his grandson and hadn't been such a bastard about it, then we would have all been happier. He got reticent and very angry. He said I was being very rude to insult him like that. I said that he'd been rude to insinuate that I was cheating on my husband, and that technically he was indeed the break in the chain. He was furious with me and mad at my husband for letting me talk about him that way. My husband told him that he brought this all on himself and that he would treat us all with respect if he wanted to be in our lives. He followed up that since we have the money now, there's nothing he can hold over if we choose to kick him back out. We're hearing a lot from my husband's relatives, some good, some bad. Overall, they think I need to be more polite, but they agree he did this to himself because he pressured us into getting a paternity test. So, he barges into your lives demanding a paternity test and accuses you of cheating, but you need to be more polite? I think the heck not. The man who didn't want an illegitimate descendant discovered he was illegitimate. Karma is a witch. Thanks for the laugh, that was great. You're not the idiot and your father-in-law needs an attitude adjustment. I'm not sure why you'd want to continue tolerating someone like that in your lives, but congrats on the free trust fund. Yep. I'm sick of this mentality where people are supposed to be polite to the person who has utterly trashed and disrespected them. Be the better, bigger person equals get back on the floor, doormat. As long as the abusive person has a preferred target, nobody else has to deal with the mess. OP and her DH aren't playing doormat. Good for them. Father-in-law wanted to play stupid games and won the stupid prize. Turns out he's the illegitimate one in the family. I find that hilarious. Yeah, LMAO. Sheesh, what a story. OP, let us know if he finds out who his bio dad is. He shouldn't be in the kitchen if he can't take the heat. The nerve to start a stink about this and not think that it's insulting to you, his son and grandchild. If he can't accept that he's going to have to eat crap about this for a while, he can indeed be kicked back out. And leave this to your husband to sort out. My friend has been married for a year now to her firefighter husband. She's the only one in the friend group that's married. I usually host dinners every couple of months and we will do a late one for the holidays on Friday. I usually invite him, but money has gotten tight due to the holidays and he eats so much. I understand why, but it always results in me doubling the recipes or running out of food. So this time, I told everyone that I wanted just to do a girls' night. This means my friend's husband is not invited. If he isn't there, there's enough food for everyone without double recipes. She called me up asking why I was doing a girls' night. I told her the truth that I couldn't afford to make double for dinner and her husband ate a lot. She called me a jag-off and now she's telling my friends why. Everyone is split and no one offers to help with the food bill. So, am I the idiot? Is he insisting on more food? You also didn't need to tell her the real reason if you didn't want to, and you've probably made him feel crappy. To be honest, if money is tight, maybe don't host dinners, or ask everyone to bring a dish. Then you have to pay for less and they can double up their recipe. You are the idiot and should probably have told the group it's getting expensive. You're happy to host, but bringing dishes, contributing to the cost would help instead of singling out one person and making them feel guilty for eating. Still, I understand times are tough and money is tight for everyone, so it can be really difficult, so I do feel for you in that sense. I offered the group the option to Venmo me some money or change it to a potluck. They don't agree. He eats 2 or 3 servings. Eats more than everyone else, so if I don't double it, some of the girls will be hungry if he gets his fill, since he will eat it all. Another option, he's still hungry, which seems to be a no since that happened the first time and everyone was upset. He sounds like an extremely rude dinner guest. I wouldn't invite him to my home either. When I go spend time with friends who are tight on funds, I make sure to bring my own food or expect to pay for pizza or something. I'd never expect them to fund my meals, particularly if I knew I was a big eater. You are not the idiot. And friend and husband should have chipped in with a big dish of something and a bottle of wine. How do two people think that they're regularly going to dinner at someone's house and not contributing? Husband has no manners, but OP let it go on too long. The husband shouldn't have been there to begin with. You did nothing wrong in arranging a smaller party to manage costs. Your friend just sounds entitled and ridiculous. Oh man, I had a weekend guest once. I made this nice pot roast for dinner and was going to serve the leftovers for lunch the next day. It seemed reasonable since it was 3 of us and the baby. And he wasn't a bodybuilder or anything, large framed but an IT guy. He kept saying how good the meal was and then he ate half of the roast in one sitting, you guys. I had to scramble to figure out lunch. And we're low-budget farm people who make everything from scratch. And I have to say it was a factor in not going out of my way to invite him again. He's still a good friend, but not every friend is a good house guest. I, 32 male, have been with my wife for 6 years and we have an infant daughter. For the past year, my mom has been battling with severe depression following the incarceration of my brother. He lived with her when he got locked up and she'd never lived alone, so it took a toll on her mentally. He's in prison for 19 years, so I don't see it changing anytime soon either. I helped her get into therapy 6 months or so ago, following my wife commenting on not wanting my mother here every single day. To be entirely fair to my wife, it was getting exhausting. My mom would show up at various times during the day without notice and hang out for hours because she didn't want to be alone, and entertaining her every single day was getting super irritating, especially given that my wife and I had zero downtime or alone time. So anyway, I got my mom into therapy. For the past 4 months, my mom has still been stopping by, but it's not nearly as frequent. She has a boyfriend now, so she's only been stopping by once or twice a week and doesn't stay for more than an hour. My wife still hates it, but she said she would take this over how it was any day. But 2 days ago, my mom showed up in hysterics. She was completely inconsolable. She and her boyfriend were fighting, and I guess it just made all her mental anguish flood back. She asked if she could stay the night. I ran it by my wife, who said, whatever, and locked herself away in the bedroom. She hadn't gotten any sleep the night before. I told my mom, you can stay the night but must leave in the morning. I'm going to be honest with you, my wife doesn't want you here. She hasn't been sleeping and this is inconvenient. She said she would leave first thing in the morning, but the next day she was even worse than the night before. She was freaking out and hyperventilating because she didn't want to go home to an empty house. She said she hadn't slept at all. She was afraid of driving with no sleep, etc., and asked if she could take a nap in our bed so she could be rested for the drive. Our couch, where she slept, wasn't comfortable. My wife said that was fine, but she better be gone by the time we got back from grocery and other errands. We left at 10 a.m. We arrived home at 8 p.m. and my mom was still sleeping in our bed. The baby was super fussy and my wife was livid. She said, go wake her the heck up and tell her to leave or I'm gonna lose my crap. This is unacceptable. I tried waking my mom, but she kept saying, 5 more minutes and turning away. My wife just looked at me and said, I'm done with this BS, and packed up the baby again and left for a hotel. She said she wouldn't come back until I had no contact with my mom and cut the umbilical cord because my mom didn't get out of my bed until early midnight and then went back to sleep on the couch instead of leaving. Am I the idiot? Dude, yikes, you are the idiot. Whatever and fine are words you never ever want to hear come out of a woman's mouth. That right there should have been your tip that she was about to lose her crap. Are you willing to get a divorce and lose your wife and kid over your mom? The whole reason your wife wants no contact is because you failed at setting boundaries. Your wife sees this and knows nothing will change unless you force the hard, no contact way. Tough love. Your mom is so codependent that you will always be her crutch. You are enabling her behavior every time you give in. You think you're doing the right thing, but you're really making it worse. It's unhealthy and you're risking everything for a situation that will not change. Exactly, look what happened here. She said fine for one night and winds up with this woman in her bed for a second night. And a young infant baby. Your wife is still recovering from growing and birthing an entire human, and she must have had awful pregnancy with mother-in-law, putting all this extra stress on her. Mama's boy needs to go to therapy and sort himself out as well. You need to stop letting your mom run your house. You are her son, not her emotional support animal. Your wife doesn't deserve for her life to keep getting interrupted because your mother is hysterical and fighting with her boyfriend like she's 16. Most grandparents would want to come over to help with or see their infant grandchild, not come over to be a drain on a new mother and her household. Your mom needs more help than she's apparently getting in therapy. Unacceptable. And I'm sorry, but to tell his mom to leave because she is an inconvenience to his wife is putting all the blame on his wife, and that's a big no-no. And just for this, he is a big fat idiot. And that's not even considering all the other arguments you made that put him in an even bigger idiot place. He's making his wife the bad one here by using her as an excuse to deal with his mother. They need to show a united front. He shouldn't be pushing his wife under the bus, for crying out loud. OP, wake up. I, female 30, live with my wife and our 2 sons. We're homeowners and have had some trouble with our next door neighbours. They're a young nuclear family, 2 parents in their 30s with a baby. We aren't the type of neighbours to spy into yards or monitor what everyone is doing, so we hadn't noticed that their backyard was a pigsty until our fence panels had been broken. These neighbours had been piling trash and leaning it up against our fence, and eventually the sheer weight of it had just broken it, causing it all to spill into our yard. There were old pieces of wood, metal, garbage cans, pieces of furniture and just general clutter and crap. I confronted the neighbours and informed them of what had happened. I asked politely that they clear up the garbage and contribute some money towards a new fence. The husband said he'd sort it out, but after 2 weeks of no change, I knocked on the door again. The wife gave some excuse about the baby being crazy, but said they would get rid of the garbage ASAP. Another 3 weeks, and nothing. I knocked on their door at 2 different times, left messages on their Ring doorbell, and messaged them both on Facebook, and it's been radio silence. They've also not given us any money for the fence, but to be honest, I don't even care. After no response for another week, I took matters into my own hands. I loaded up their garbage into my car and took it to the dump. They're now angry and said that we have no right to get rid of their stuff and it's still their property. When the wife turned up at our door, we got into a small argument as she threatened me with small claims court, saying that we owed her and her husband money. I called her a Karen and told her if the stuff was so important, she shouldn't have left it littered around in my yard where my kids play for over a month. She said they would have gotten rid of it if they were given a chance. The nearest dump is over an hour's drive away and they don't have all the time in the world. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Why exactly would they take you to court over cleaning their garbage, saving them time and money? Or are they saying their garbage wasn't garbage? You've given them 5 weeks since you first talked to the husband and they did nothing. They're fortunate you aren't charging them for the dumping fee. You could have thrown it back to their home and you didn't. They damaged your property and abandoned their items on your side of the fence. They're guilty of property damage and littering, and it's unlikely that any court would grant damages for the property they abandoned on someone else's land. You should be taking them to small claims court about the damage to your fence. I hope OP took pictures and documented all their attempts to have them clean it up. I don't even understand why the neighbour is upset. She said she was going to get rid of the stuff and didn't have time to go to the tip. OP saved them the bother. If anything, they owe OP a fruit basket or something. The only reasons to be upset are that they're hoarders and didn't actually plan to get rid of it, or they're super embarrassed that OP had to clean up their mess. My brother-in-law, my husband's brother, just got engaged. My husband and I have been married for 8 years. Before he proposed, he said you can either have a really nice ring or the down payment on a house. I went with the house, which I don't regret at all with the market the way it is now, and I have a perfectly adequate ring that I also love. I was fawning over her ring when we were in the car on the way home from seeing them and said something like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous," and my husband got very upset. I tried to calm him down, like I'm also jealous of rich people with 5 houses and a private jet, but that doesn't mean I expect my husband to provide me with 5 houses and a private jet. It's just a feeling. I'm also jealous of our dog, who gets to nap all day and never worries about anything. I explained all this to him, and he was still mad and said I shouldn't have said anything, and it made him feel like he couldn't provide for me. I apologised, but a few days later I could tell he was still smarting over the remark. It's getting annoying. I tried to bring it up again, and he just said I needed to leave it alone and then added, "I'm entitled to my feelings just like you're entitled to your jealousy." Honestly, it just seems stupid to me. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot, not so much for saying you were jealous, but for saying you think your husband's feelings are stupid. He's right. He's entitled to feel hurt by the comment, just as you are entitled to covet your sister-in-law's ring. Instead of telling him why you think he shouldn't feel how he feels, try understanding and showing compassion for his feelings. Not the idiot. I tell people I'm so jealous or colour me green all the time as a compliment over something. I'm so jealous generally equals that's so nice. The ring is a sore spot with your hubby, but you had a choice between a ring or house and you made it. Tell him you're glad you chose a house and you get to live there, and if he's really that bothered by the ring, he's going to have to get over that. There may be an element of competition between the brothers at play also. Which one was better at sports, got better grades, which one is more successful, got their fiancé a bigger ring. Your husband expressed his long-term commitment to you as a pragmatic versus romantic way based on your choice. He may be feeling that you're subconsciously, or have suppressed a feeling of disappointment for having to make a choice. He's feeling like he failed you and himself.